Hello and welcome to Primary Stat. I'm Phil, and today we're looking at something that's a bit hard to describe. Hotline Miami. Made by Denaton Games and published by Devolver Digital, Hotline Miami is a top-down shooter. The first thing I'll say is that the story doesn't make much sense for the greater part of the game, and you don't really get any answers for the questions you might have. So if you were hoping for a story-driven game, this might not be the place to look. Hotline Miami uses pixel art and sprites for its graphics. I like the art style, I really do, but there are certain things that keep me at arm's length. The first thing is the strange static filter and changing colors in the background. And on top of that, the game itself sways as you're playing it. It's a little disorienting and messes with the gameplay a little bit too. The sway also causes motion sickness in some people as well, so you might want to be wary of that. Now let's talk about the gameplay. Hotline Miami is an incredibly fast-paced, top-down brawler/shooter. The game is brutal in both presentation and in combat. The game is tough. Enemies die in one hit with weapons, but so do you. There is no room for error. If you mess up or don't react quickly enough, you will die. It's non-negotiable. Luckily, the checkpoints are placed pretty well so that you don't lose too much progress at once. The game is really satisfying when you beat a level. Strategy is a huge factor when trying to take out your enemies. Watching patrol routes and keeping track of which enemies are going to hear or see you is more than just important, it's vital. You can kill enemies with melee attacks or guns, but keep in mind that guns make noise, and that noise will attract all nearby enemies to your location. And if you're not prepared, they will overwhelm you. There are a few drawbacks to the gameplay that tarnish Hotline Miami just a little bit. One odd thing I noticed is that guns don't always kill enemies, which is a little bit confusing. Also, the game is hard. While this can be a very good thing in that the game is challenging, it can also be a bad thing. If you get stuck at a certain point, it can quickly become frustrating. This is partially due to the fact that the enemy AI is unpredictable. Sometimes an enemy will spot you at a certain point, and sometimes they won't. Will that enemy go through the door again? Who knows? Maybe? What really doesn't help this is that one of the tips that show up on the loading screens says enemies are predictable. Falsehood. They are not. On the whole, the game plays really well. With only a few hiccups, the game is quite fun, if a bit maddening at times. The controls themselves are pretty good, but I feel that they have a few serious issues. This is where the sway that I mentioned earlier becomes an issue. The aiming is slightly off because of the sway, and while it's not always an issue, long-range shots with a gun and throwing weapons are not always easy to aim. The angles seem to be just a little bit off. Another problem I have is that the game feels too fast for the controls to be really tight. Moving is a bit too quick, which makes it hard to go exactly where you want, making you get stuck in doorways or on corners when it feels like you shouldn't have. One last note about the controls, it's tough to grab the weapon that you want since they all tend to stack on top of each other, and there's no way to choose which one you pick up, which means you just have to sit there and throw away all the weapons you don't want until you get the one you do. Hotline Miami. It's an interesting game, to say the least. While it may sound like I've ragged on the game a lot, it's actually really good. It's a tough and unique indie title. My thoughts on the game are mixed, but in the end, I would have to say that I liked this game. Hotline Miami will only set you back $10. I'm not sure if I would recommend this game to everyone, but if you like a challenge or you simply like these kinds of 2D shooting games, I would wholeheartedly tell you to go buy this game. It's worth it. If you enjoy a more laid-back approach to gaming or aren't that into the genre, I'd say give this one a pass. If you like this video and want to see more like it, go ahead and click the subscribe button and more videos will be coming out really soon.